My name is Augusto Rosa. Ignore the the butched attempt to say my name. Like, how many of you have heard of SRE in the audience? You raise your hands. Oh, wow, awesome. What about Chaos Engineering? Cool. A few less, but is a thing. So I, you're going to see. So who I am a father of two teenage kids. I read about one or two books a week. So I love science fiction, but I read anything. It's like I'm actually original from Angola, Africa, but I have been in Canada for 19 years now. So I would say I am Canadian as it gets. My career in IT in Canada has been about 18 years. In Angola, I was already in IT, so I started actually pretty early at 15 years old, believe it or not. I did have the pleasure or the opportunity or lucky enough to actually work on very large brands in Canada. A lot of media, a lot of video streaming. So and I got into cloud computing very, very early, back in 2010. So I've been doing AWS for like 8 or 9 years. I know Azure very well. So I've done a lot of stuff. It's been a really fun career. So this is the company I work for, Slalom Build. We have about 30 offices across US, Canada, and UK. We're expanding quite rapidly. Slalom Build, which is the engineering side of Slalom, we have over 1,000 engineers working on building custom software, and we're distributed across 7 centers, and Toronto being one of them. My team in particular, the Cloud DevOps Security practice, has about 10 people in Toronto, and we're going to probably triple or double in size this year alone. So you guys probably recognize the guy. So I'll start by telling you a few stories about things that happened to me over, my humble career. And for example, a big brand name that you probably recognize is Big Brother. And at some point in my career, I hosted Big Brother Canada. And like some crazy things happen when you have such a dynamic thing, and the host will say, hey guys, go here to vote to eliminate someone, and as a result, everything comes crashing almost immediately within a minute because you have like, I don't know, 1,000 times higher the traffic. So, and some of the lessons on reliability that came from this thing is, so have we tested it even appropriately? So this was the first time Canada was hosting a show that had such an interactive element. And one of the things, it got so bad that we actually would beg the hostess of the show, hey, please don't mention online because we don't think we can do it. It was pretty terrible. It's like, and it goes back. We actually, at first year, we had no idea how popular that thing would be. Second year, we learned a lot after and adapted, and then it continued. Like, funny, like in Canada, we have this weird thing that when we put on shows and to do the online thing, we apply for government credits, and essentially, the net result of those government credits is the company cannot develop their own site, has to outsource it. As a result, they outsource to a company that within a week of us launching the show, they come to it and it was like, okay, this site doesn't even work under a load balancer. I'm like, okay, we have a plan B. I'm like, okay, what's your plan B? Well, let's just run it on one server. I was like, oh, sorry, I was going to say a bad word, but I was like, yeah, it's not acceptable in a nice way to them. So finally, they figure out within days how to put it in a load balancer. That day, the voting started. We started with 3 servers, end up half an hour later with something like 30 servers to be able to sustain the traffic. Thanks AWS for auto scaling. Last year, I did another kind of lesson around reliability. I worked for a retailer for about a year. And I don't know in Lithuania. Do you guys have Black Friday here? It's kind of like, it's quite big now in Canada. Started in the US, it's quite big in Canada, and it is a lot of pre-work. Pretty much everything freezes about a month before, and you just focus on making sure we can be reliable. Because what happens is your typical biggest day of the year, you actually do that in 1 hour on like those 2 or 3 days. That's it. You make all the money. Nothing can fail. And things we did to practice and be ready for those are doing game days and doing purposely failure, and start looking at some of the chaos engineering and introducing purposely failures ahead. And also biggest one is obviously increasing visibility into the stack. How do you monitor? How do you look at things? Looking at some kind of AI in monitoring, so you start seeing trends and early alerts. We still end up adding servers on the Thursday afternoon before Black Friday, even though we did all that work. And playing with load balancing algorithms like at midnight. So it's quite interesting. Another of my jobs in the past, I used to run the engineering team for operations engineering team for a company that no longer exists. We used to be like Netflix in Canada. It's called Show Me. At one point at peak, we were the 5th largest video streaming service in North America. To put you in perspective, this company existed in Canada only, but we were behind, you know, the likes of Netflix, YouTube. So we were doing really high. And we had this event one day. So I'm at the airport. My mom is coming from back home, Angola. And I'm like, get a call. My mom is walking out the door and says, hey, everything is down. I'm like, hey, mom, 4 hours on the phone trying to resolve an issue. And everything is down. Just why is it down? And it turns out there's a code bug in the way they calculated the date. So how they assign the tokens so for identity, and the code was playing out to multiple things. The database itself had a bug that didn't like the way the calculation past a certain date was. And as simple as it was a one-line code change that fixed everything, that finally figured out after 4 hours. But the key to this is saying that usually failure has multiple reasons. Is usually not just one reason. So I will move on to a few other cloud horror stories. So like we had once that automation erased all our configuration from all microservices. They existed, but they just weren't didn't know to talk to each other. So that's a thing that could happen if you didn't test for it. What if you're, you know, at the time we were using Chef hosted, you know, it sent the wrong thing, someone did the wrong thing. I work at a time where cloud wasn't as reliable as now, and sometimes I've seen multiple availability zones, if you know what that means, go down. For example, last year, Azure broke all their functions by releasing something around IPv6, and they didn't even admit it until 12 hours later. So we kind of, by fluke, click a button, oh, works, it's IPv6. Just remember, cloud is not a physical data center. You actually have to be purposeful on thinking about reliability. So my lessons. It is sometimes feel like I'm juggling a wire at the end of the thing. And you'll notice a lot of my lessons are kind of almost repeats from other talks and other speakers are telling you about. So you will see a lot of common patterns. I think a big one that's been stated here is transparency. In operations, in development, in testing, there's no more silos. So you know what? Very important, infrastructure as code. And with integrated into your CI/CD pipeline. It's just not good enough that you develop, let's say, Terraform, but you still run it from your computer. How do you know that the engineer is testing that and is actually doing the right thing? Pull requests, branching strategies for infrastructure. That is very important because it brings concepts like peer review and having developers check what operations guy is doing or testers, everyone know what's happening. It goes back to transparency. One thing that worked very well for me is the concept of Scrumban. Ultimately, it's just Kanban with a lot of the ceremonies from Scrum, because you gain things of planning, grooming. Sometimes with Scrum, you are limited to the 2 weeks, and oh, I can't wait 2 weeks to change. Okay, maybe you don't have a sprint, but you still have the planning. Every 2 weeks, you meet, you try to have a sense of planning. It gives your teams sense of transparency. It gives everyone a sense of what's coming. And if it fails, then on the retro, you discuss why and continuously improve. A lot of people, and we get asked, what is the definition of DevOps? What is it? At the end of the day, it comes to a very simple thing: collaborate with all practices. We're all in it together. Like, we're really as good as our collaboration at the end of the day. And the other thing is, like, be ready to say, I screwed up. Like, last year, I working at this retailer, they had this stupid habit of releasing at 6 a.m. And you know what? I woke up, I was tired. I pressed the wrong button and released the wrong API. I was the first guy, and I was the director. I was in charge. So, hey, my fault. I did it. Into the entire management team and the entire IT team. Because I want to give the safety of my team to be, if I screw up and admit it, so can you. So it's back to learning from your mistakes. So collaborations as first priority. It's not about you, it's not about your team. It's about how you engage on improving. It's about delivering value to your business. What is the business needs? Does the business needs Kubernetes or the business needs serverless? Ultimately, it doesn't matter. What is the fastest thing you can do for your business to be successful? Within the safety constraints of what it is. Be an advocate, sell your ideas, collaborate with everyone. And ultimately, focus on de-risking things. If serverless or Kubernetes is not the right thing for you, why is it? What's the purpose? Is reliability the purpose? Then focus on looking how can you de-risk that. Another practice that why would I care about testing? I am a cloud engineer. I don't care about testing, but that is key to everything. Like, everyone should test. If I'm releasing infrastructure, I should be able to go and test the application I'm releasing. Why not? Why I'm going to pass the buck? Everyone's in it. And that means that your team, everyone in the team needs to know what the application does. It needs to be able to read the code. I don't need to develop code, but I can read code. I know what a function is supposed to be doing. And they have to be able to know how to run the automated testing, hopefully you have those. I'm going to cover another slide, the pyramid of testing, and what some of the things. And goes back, don't pass infrastructure, you need to test, it's software. One big thing for me in reliability is measuring everything. In another slide, I'm going to show you some of the SRE concepts and how that relates to human psychology. But you need to keep important logs and metrics. You need to keep it in a way that you know. For example, at Show Me, we had a big dashboard that would turn red when things were going bad. Then we could actually click on that red and go to a drill down dashboard. It takes a lot of energy, but it works very beautiful for reliability. And don't forget to measure from a customer perspective, because I don't care that your CPU is okay. If the customer is sucking, like, who cares? Like, you have no value to the business. So measure all stages. And the dashboards, as I mentioned. At the end of the day, this is about the team. So at Slalom, we have a saying, this is a team sport. Reliability is a team sport. There's no heroes. Hero culture does not apply to reliability. That's really just not, does not. So what I learned a long time ago is that you need to get everyone involved. Your product owner, your business people, your finance, your developers, quality, whatever it is, they need to be all bought into this. They need to participate in reliability and why you're making certain decisions. So explain why. We are all in it as a team. But if it's all in it as a team, the team needs to have safety. It goes back to psychology of I am the boss, I raise my hand and I send an email to the entire IT team, say, hey, I screwed up. I released the wrong thing. Sorry, we lost revenue for half an hour. So approach conflict as a collaboration, not an adversary. Listen to people, consider their ideas, and then maybe you get to a point. And allow people to make mistakes. It's okay. Learn from your mistakes. The worst thing you can happen, you have someone that's not allowed to make mistakes, so you never evolved. If that person makes the same mistake maybe like more than 3 times, well, maybe we got a problem of performance. But if he makes mistake, that's the way he's going to learn. As a boss, the best thing you could do for your team is even if you know the answer, let them fail. Allow them that room. And the end is replace blame with curiosity. It is the best thing you could expect. So I'm not sure if you guys, do you know about the test pyramid? Anyone seen this before? Any raise of hands? Well, so that's really important. So a lot of people nowadays talk about automated testing. You know where they spend their time automating? They spend like 90% of their time in that 10% automated GUI tests. Why is that bad? That's bad because it takes the longest to run. It takes the longest to maintain. Because you change one icon, shit, the whole test, the whole test goes bad. So the best proposal for you to go into automated testing is 70% unit tests, 20% API testing, integration, component tests. Then very small GUI testing, 10%. That is the sweet spot. It's proven. Keep it simple. I cannot advise you stronger about that. Keep it stupid simple. Because when your engineer, your developer, your tester is looking at a problem that something is down, if you do not have patterns that start with naming conventions, DNS, how things are, essentially that means you're going to take another half an hour to 4 hours, as long as it takes for him to understand. If you keep it simple, patterns all the time, that means you can understand the problem faster, means higher uptimes. So my biggest lesson over the last 18 years is keep it simple. You know, give away complexity for simplicity if you have to. And have fun. Like one of the biggest lessons I learned over time, you know, you grow to be, let's say you get promoted in your career, and why do you get promoted? Because you deliver. You can deliver things, you deliver projects on time, you force people into delivery. At the end of the day, I learned that it doesn't actually matter. Oh, what happened here? Did it work? Okay, cool. It doesn't matter the project. If you take care of the people, you have fun, the projects will get delivered. So some of the points I've been making through my stories really are grounded in a few practices that have been said and repeated by a lot of the talks we are having in the conference. A big one is CALMS, is a DevOps framework. You know, everyone asks, what is DevOps? What is DevOps? We are trying to all figure out. And COM stands for culture, automation, sharing, lean, and measurement. Have you noticed the patterns on a lot of what I said, going back to this? So culture is own the change, drive the collaboration. And what it means is things like safety. As a junior engineer, I'm okay to propose a major change the way we work. My senior people, my bosses, whatever it is going to back me up. I'm not going to yell that. I'm not going to be shut it off. Sometimes it's going to work. Sometimes it's not going to work. Find a ways to de-risk it and experiment. I think manual steps are no-no. I think automation is probably the biggest things we talk in DevOps, so I'm not going to talk too much about automation. You shouldn't really have too many manual steps, if any. Sharing experiences, continuous learning. If you go back to Toyota's, how they came with the concept of lean and agile, all comes back from Toyota. And now they can stop a plant that is charging, I don't know, $10,000 a minute for stopping the plant, but they allow people to do that. That goes back to the concept of psychologically safety and being able to share those experiences, stop things when that's wrong, do the right thing for your customers. At the end of the day, goes back to lean, experimenting. What is the minimal amount of work I can do to prove something is going to work for my company? You know, I could replace this entire data center. Well, maybe just pick the safest thing you have and move it to the cloud and see how it works. Something that really doesn't matter if it goes down or not, so you have a chance to experiment. Be okay with it. And back to measuring everything. You saw this morning talking about measure. How long does it take to release? And it's not pressing a button and the code shows there. No. How long does it take from an idea to come and it go all the way to reach production? Measure those things. Because when you start measuring, you can make decisions. You can see where is your value being drained. So you essentially ultimately changing behavior so you get results. That's what DevOps comms is about. Another one that is being quite popular, introduced by Google, is site reliability engineering. And if you look at this pyramid, it's really based on a very Maslow hierarchy of needs. And it says that the needs in the lower hierarchy must be met or satisfied before you can attend to the needs of the higher ups. So psychologically, safety, love, belonging, all these things sounds like, okay, why are you bringing psychological to IT? It really has nothing to do with it. But if you go to the site reliability hierarchy, if I don't have, usually this is reverse. We think of the product and then we think of monitoring at the end. So if I'm going to release a product that is supposed to have quality and I don't even know how I'm going to look at the quality, what does it tell you? That you're really not thinking about your customers. So monitoring, incident response are things you need to make decisions early. It doesn't matter that it's the wrong decision. It ultimately does not matter. You scrap that decision, change again. But you need to know those things. You need to have a root cause analysis that is in a blameless culture, because if you blame someone, what is going to happen? The problem actually does not get resolved. We're just going to keep happening. And in the end, your team is going to say, why do I care to even speak if you don't listen to me? Testing, release procedure, CI/CD. You need to know your CI/CD before you have a product. It's so simple. Even write a simple script, as long as it's automated. Capacity planning, development. Then we reach to product. Like, and those things, it does sound a lot of things you would have to go ahead of the product, but if you actually think of reliability of head, you can make some quick decisions out of this. It doesn't have to be complicated. A concept that has been coming quite popular called chaos engineering. Chaos engineering comes from Netflix and how they release Chaos Monkey. And essentially, Chaos Monkey is a utility that Netflix has always running in their infrastructure. It's always breaking things. Sometimes like just adding network latency to your web server, see how it behaves, or shuts down a database server in a cluster. See what happens. Am I reliable? I'm actively testing my infrastructure. So this concept is growing, and you'll see, for example, Gremlin is a company that has a commercial product and an open source product. Chaos Toolkit, I think, is an European company as well, releasing an open source product. And it will do, it's ultimately is breaking things on purpose, but is also, you need to think through the test. You need to have backout strategies. Okay, what is it I'm trying to prove? You know, what if my DNS disappear? What happens? Does it work still? The network, the databases, you need to be able to be comfortable that all parts of your infrastructure are able to disappear any single point in time. This concept is even more important in the cloud because cloud providers are releasing code all the time, new features. As I said, there was an example I used how Azure released something and broke IPv6 for all their functions worldwide. Well, I could have tested that. Did I have an automated tester for that? No, we didn't. So ultimately, you have to think about that. And game days, ability to come and test those things regularly. Hopefully through automation, constantly running. Netflix is really a pioneer on that. I don't know if you guys know, but they actually run like Chaos Monkey in production all the time. So they're purposely introducing failures to their customers all the time. Last one for me, and you can find me on LinkedIn, you can find me on Twitter, ask questions. Like, I love to talk to people and I love to discuss things and figure out things together. Thank you.